So Frano and I thought we'd talk about going soft, which certainly involves textiles, and I'll show you 3 case studies about that. But I think it's a larger idea, and I think that that's important to recognize, because anyone who's working with materials in any fashion has a big problem today. Materials come to architects and designers in a pre-established form. Their dimensions, they're generally flat, they're normal. And so our creative task, if you will, is to try to figure out ways to transform these materials while using them. So as architects, we're a little bit impatient. We need to kind of pull from the present to the future. And I'll share some projects with you. So just very simply, soft design is really an act of imagination. It's a way of thinking about how materials, including textiles, but not limited to textiles, can be combined, can be thought of with nature, natural materials, and technology as part of one system. So because Suzanne is being extremely strict on time with us, I'm going to rifle through some examples that are not textiles, but that use textile thinking. So I'm just going to talk about acts of transformation, bend. We're familiar with Charles and Ray Eames's Kazan machine for making molds. And so our challenge was, how could we make plywood like a textile? This is a vault that has wireless information and lighting in a school in Boston. And we combine the plywood material, really how it bends and its limits, with software that allows us to take each piece of plywood and connect it to the other. So very thin plywood becomes very strong, woven together almost like a basket. We can cut or kerf. This is a very traditional way of making materials soft. It's used in guitar making, in making musical instruments like lutes. So we take little cuts and we can make a straight sheet of wood be completely round. This guy helps us. This is a robotic arm that is able to make these cuts very precisely using software, so that we can actually take 4 sheets of wood and zip them together, following the method that was developed by Christoph Schindler at the ETH, so that we can take a process where we have 4 boards. You see them here at the bottom here, 4 boards zipped together to become a solar rocking chair, if you will, an outdoor piece of furniture disguised as a rocking chair. You can charge yourself, your electronics, and relax and recharge. I want to just end this quick introduction with the idea of augmentation, which probably is a similar word in Dutch, but it's to add to graft into. It's a plant term. So how could we take a natural material like wood and give it another kind of property? This is a building that Frano and I recently designed. It actually has textile brick that's woven together, but that's a story for another day. It is the anthropology building at Harvard. But I want to focus us on this large daylighting well, which you see here. And this uses a complete textile pattern and augmented wood to bring different qualities to the wood. In red above, you see all the patterns, just like a dress, of every single panel in this daylighting well. So these are areas where we want to increase the reflectivity. And down below are areas where we want to increase the sound protection, the acoustics. So we thought about birch wood, which you can see there, a very typical kind of wood. We developed a software where we can cut in slits and make each panel quite unique, adding either reflectivity or soft materials to absorb. And we run this very quickly so that it can be easily fabricated, each panel unique with the software, install it, and you can see some of the qualities of light that happen in those spaces, different qualities, right? This is the same image here and the building. Now I want to talk about textiles. I want to talk about how this thinking really comes into the world of textiles with 3 short case studies. This is the Soft House project. It's a live-work residential development for 4 units where you can have your own home office and live up above. In German, this is called Reihenhäuser. It's like a row house typology. We were lucky enough to win the first prize from the International Baustellung in Hamburg, and they are making a sustainable development of Wilhelmsburg Island, which is just to the south of Hafen City, around the River Elbe. And what we proposed was a house entirely made out of wood, with a textile canopy on the outside that harvests energy, and on the inside, curtains that move, that conduct that electricity, and also give us solid-state lighting with LEDs. Now, you know that a little bit similar to Holland, this northern part of Germany is very windy. It's actually not known for being too sunny. So we wanted to somehow get the feeling of this landscape, the feeling of the marine sails, the marine industry, into the Soft House project. So we developed here the canopy. This is just a basic diagram, which has some climate data, which is coming from the wind, from a little piezo sensor. And that's pulled down into the house. These are the movable curtains, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then a very, very simple architectural form made out of wood. I should mention that all 4 of these houses are passive houses, so they have quite rigorous, they meet quite rigorous German standards for passive house. And the atmosphere of the house is really created by the textiles, the outer textiles and the inner textiles. So we will see here in a minute this little like claymation model that is basically showing how these twisters turn to the east and west and then can lower and rise because they are textiles. So we really try to maximize the most of the sun that is there in Hamburg. This is Jan Nippers. We certainly don't work alone. We work with many manufacturers and engineering consultants. And Jan Nippers from Nippers Helbeg Advanced Engineering in Stuttgart did all of the testing for this entirely new system, which was developed for the Soft House, all the wind testing and all of this. Because this is not just a demonstration house, it's a house where people are living. This is, it's a challenge to try to pull the present into the future in this way. So an image there of the 4 houses. And they are made out of Brettstapel, which is a solid wood construction, much like this tree. These are the 4 units actually coming to the site. They are very compact in this form. We can build them very quickly. And even the building wrapper, the weather wrapper, is a textile that's made, it is made by Serge Ferrari. That's a building textile, and all the insulation in this building is Baumwolle. It's a sheep's wool, and then it's just solid solid wool. Cotton. Yes, sorry. You can see inside this house that when I say it's wood, I mean it's totally wood. It's wood that's this thick wood. And so what are you going to do for the traditional things like plumbing? We have some radiant floor. We have plumbing in the stack. Plumbing in this stack. And for electricity, we took a different idea. We said, let's make the electricity like furniture so that it's easy to change. We don't have to dig out the walls when we want to make a change. We'll run the electricity just in tracks, curtain tracks on the ceiling, and we'll use curtains. And we'll ask curtains to do all of the traditional textile things that curtains normally do, like provide privacy and provide a little insulation. But we'll ask the curtains to do 2 more things: conduct electricity and provide light. And so we then went through and worked on all the tracks, made them in a kit of parts. You can see that there. We worked with Ludwig Svensson in Sweden, a family-owned textile company. We loved their patterns. These are some of their jacquard patterns. And we used then their Rechel knitting technique to put functional stripes in. Svensson has asked us not to show too many pictures of their factory because they have their own particular machinery that they use. But we bring then these curtains into the Soft House. You can see the power supply there coming from the energy in, and then these curtains move like other curtains, and they create a kind of set of different patterns so that each house has its own unique space, and you can change that by moving the curtain. It's also part of the climate. We know that when we have a curtain wrapped around us, particularly a greenhouse curtain that's reflecting our heat back, we can have little pockets of areas that are warmer around us. So this is part of the idea. You don't heat the whole house up so much. There's a radiant floor, and if you want to get warm, just like the old kings used to do, you just pull a tapestry around your bed or around your chair where you are sitting. I think you'll see this running, if I run it. Let's try it. The wind outside is blowing, and the data is collecting that, and its LEDs are moving through the curtains at the same speed that the wind blows outside. So there's a little bit of a play between outside and inside in this house. There are many different programs that you can use for these LEDs, but we call this the visible breeze. The second project that we'd like to show you is in New York. It's a ferry terminal. It's a project that just was opened. We're very excited about it. It is on the East River of New York City, if you've been to Manhattan, and it serves LaGuardia, Long Island, Staten Island, and all the points up and down Queens, all the points up and down Manhattan. It's actually turned out to be quite a popular place. It's sustainable for New Yorkers to not take taxis, but to actually use the ferry boat to travel. And what's kind of interesting about our site is that most people don't realize that there's this very large estuary that you can see here, which is a tidal river. And so the tide goes out and it comes in, but most New Yorkers don't understand that at all. And we wanted to show them that there's more to just commuting on the water, that there could be something that we could show them underwater. So we developed a system in our textile roof where we have these large light wells, which have LEDs, that actually kind of look into the water and communicate in their direction and in the color of their light what the tides are and what's going on. We worked with David Small from MIT to develop an animation, to develop a logic for how this is working. For example, when the current is 11 knots going north, you see this in the LEDs. And we have just actually installed that on site. What's kind of interesting about this picture is that you can see this soft infrastructure. Everything was built on site. Everything was pre-manufactured and cut with a very large cutter. And literally the building structure was dressed on site very rapidly. And you can see the kind of soft infrastructure hanging here, ready to be connected. We're using materials here from Versailles. That is a PTFE and a metal spluttered mesh, which is the underside. And you can see here just what that's kind of like to see the LEDs there. These are the first time that I think that these LEDs are integrated into a two-skin textile structure. This is a view inside the structure. You can see the way that we've kind of organized all of the elements, the light wells, and the building itself. Well, I hope we can talk about this at the coffee break. I finish with my last project now, the Portable Light Project. This is a different kind of project in that it's a not-for-profit initiative that we've launched for the last 8 years or so that provides clean energy and light in the developing world. We're using these photovoltaics, which are manufactured by Global Energy, a company in Arizona and also in China. And they're flexible photovoltaics, so we try to integrate them into textiles. And now I will try to quickly jump to the animation of this. Excuse me. Don't want to lose any time with this. All right, there we go. So you can see here the way in which this textile is opening up. And she's going to connect this. We're using building insulation material that normally reflects heat. It's a non-woven, actually, it's not a textile. And here, this young woman is going to turn this around in just a minute and turn on the lights. You see 2 LEDs there. and she has a portable office where she can charge a cell phone and have some light, and it all comes down together from a textile. So now I want to, having explained that a little bit, I want to focus on Luz Portátil, which is our portable light project in Brazil. We're very fortunate to be working with a lot of great partners. We're working with the International Development Bank, Inter-American Development Bank, Projeto Sal de Alegria, NGO, IDS, another NGO, and an electrical utility company in Brazil. And what we've done is create this kit where all the kind of hard components are modularized, and they're going to be integrated into a textile. But this is pretty versatile. And we're working with PSA, our NGO partner, in the northern part of Brazil, along the Arapongas River, which flows into the Amazon, which you can see there. And what's kind of interesting is that there is actually a very robust and rapidly growing 3G network, a mobile phone network, which we don't necessarily think about in the Amazon, but it is happening. And so what we're trying to do is to create between the southern part of Brazil and the northern part of Brazil a synergy so that this project can be entirely manufactured, textiles and technology in Brazil, and we will get the solar panels here from San Luis Potosi in Mexico. So instead of all of those big yellow lines which represent global east to west shipping, we can have this be much more north-south in South America and create more of a sustainable manufacturing network. Because this is in fact what the Amazon really looks like. This is Santarém. It's Brazil's most rapidly growing area. It's a rapidly developed, rapidly urbanizing area, and there are all sorts of materials and fuels here that shouldn't be here. So what we're trying to do is replace the kerosene and the use of diesel with renewable light and renewable energy for charging a cell phone. Now, this, you may remember seeing this from the World Cup. This is the backside of Rio de Janeiro. This is the favela, which is called Rosinas. It's one of the oldest and most important favelas in Rio de Janeiro. And there we worked with a community of women, or you can see on the left, Copa Roca, which is a women's artisanal group. And with the women of Copa Roca, we created the kits that you can see there, the textile kits. These are the hard components. These are the textile backside to face the sun. And inside, these are pop-up kits that were made entirely in Brazil. So for the first time, you have two communities that benefit: the women who make the textiles and the women and men who use the textiles. So after we ran this pilot project, we're working with 13 different villages. Some women came up to us and said, well, we can make our own textiles. And of course they can, because they're expert weavers and braiders. So the way that this works is that there are many small businesses in these 13 very small river communities where Portable Light and Portátil is working. And with the mobile phone, we can provide the ability for people to increase their sustainable businesses, as you can see in the image on the right and the left. And another thing that's interesting is that we can take the mobile phone and we can take a kite. Is that the same word, kite? Yeah. And actually hoist the mobile phone. And with free software, which is available from MIT, which is called Map Knitter, we can actually help communities make their own maps of land that they own. And that's very important because in Brazil, you don't have the ability to get green grants unless you prove that you own your land, which you can only do by making a map. So to hire an airplane would be prohibitively impossible for these people. So that is the idea of Luz Portátil Brazil, textiles in action. And I just close with one very short video, just to kind of wake you all up again. And we'll take,
don't worry.
we will take, we will then be able to have questions. This is one of our colleagues, Charles Garcia, and he took a messenger bag and he just ripped off the flap and it's now a portable light. And I think he's having fun with this thing and trying to demonstrate that it's durable, malleable, and soft. And when he's done fooling around, he's going to set it up as a light. And that's the Portable Light Project Flat, Flexible Light and Power. Thank you.
Wow. How uplifting.
And I did it in 25 minutes.
So is the Flexible Light and Power Project also good for the birth rate?
In terms of?
In terms of people having more to do in the evening than go to bed?
Actually, what it is good for is for people who are giving birth. In San Miguel, which is one of the villages, I spoke about 6 months ago with the midwife who's there, and she said, so far with portable light, only boys are being born. So,
and that's a good thing?
I don't know.
Please, feel free. Yeah. Could you stand up?
Yeah. When you were talking about the East River Ferry project,
yes,
you said that it's necessary to develop a logic, of course, between the data that you get from
yes,
sensors and what you make. And in the projects that I see happening nowadays, I think that's the most difficult part, is that translation.
Yes.
To make something meaningful, that people are experiencing the data in a meaningful way. So I don't know if you could talk about that a little bit more in depth.
Well, I can only say that I think you're absolutely right. We have a lot of data in the United States, as you know. It's called big data. And that just means there's a lot of it. But it also means that we don't really know what to do with it. So I think a big part of the creative challenge is to understand how you can take that input and translate it to an output that's intuitive, understandable, and maybe related to some of our larger challenges. So for us at KVA, we always try to articulate something about climate change, quite frankly, and we've used LEDs, and we've used textiles quite a bit, both in the Soft House, in the Portable Light Project, and in the Ferry Project, to try to do that. So in our studio, that's kind of a theme that we try to articulate.
Susan.
Yes, I would like to know a little bit more about, I find it very special that you as an architectural studio has as well your architecture practice as well as this material development studio. Yes. So yeah, maybe interesting for all of the audience how this goes together.
Yes. Well, that's why I wanted to take just a little bit of your time at the beginning of the presentation, even though we are here, at the Textile Museum, to talk about the fact that textile thinking, moving from a flat pattern to a three-dimensional form, is something that is very important. And as architects, that's a fundamental way with software that we can transform any kind of sheet or flat material into something that's three-dimensional and ultimately customizable and adaptable as well. So with MADX, we work with business leaders, we work sometimes with city agencies, we work a lot with manufacturers, and people will either come to us and say, I have a material that's having a midlife crisis. Can you revitalize this material by thinking of other uses for it? Sometimes people come to us and say, we've developed a technology, but we can't quite find a good application for it, something that can start making money right away. And so we also think about those kinds of problems in MADX. And sometimes, as with the case of the Portable Light Project, we launch our own project because we see the opportunity for that.
I had another question for you, Sheila. You mentioned the beautiful project of the lids and the curtains that move or pulsate
yes.
at the speed of the wind outside,
yes.
which I thought was so poetic. But how much of a role do aesthetics play in this? Or is it all about function and giving things a new function? Was the aesthetics of this project, the poetry of the lights moving with the wind, was this a spin-off or was it a goal?
Mm-hmm. I think that it's a great question. I think that aesthetics are super important. I think if we want ultimately to get a change in culture, if we want to move our culture, I'm talking about our American culture, if we want to move our culture towards something more sustainable, We can't moralize like Jimmy Carter did, say put on your cardigan, just turn down your thermostat. We have to make something compelling. That's the power that design has, to try to really attract people to move towards this. So we all know that pretty soon the inside of our house is going to be the same as the outside, right, in 100 years or so. I mean, we're not going to be able to protect our interiors from either extreme cold or extreme warm. So it's a little bit of a joke in some ways, a serious joke, to try in the soft house to have people understand that what's happening outside also has a direct kind of translation inside. So we were trying to do that with the visual breeze, the wind that you can see moving.
I was interested in this also because just this weekend, for the Dutch speakers among you, in the newspaper Financieel Dagblad, there was an interview with Caroline Bos of UN Studio.
Yes.
And the streamer on the front page of the magazine was, oh, we never talk about ugly or beautiful at our office. And I thought, how can you not?
Well, I think that the idea of beauty is a kind of, I know Caroline pretty well, and I think she'd probably respond that, and I might agree, that the idea of beauty is a kind of a historically derived idea, so that beauty has to progress along with our culture. And I think the question of aesthetics is something where we can't take what is beautiful for granted.
One last question? This is your opportunity.
Hi. In the project where you're moving textiles into the developing world, how important is that cell phone to people that are living there, and how can we bring more of that technology to them?
It's very important. There are many interesting NGOs that we've collaborated with. Ushahidi is a good one to look up. Crowdsourcing. But the mobile phone in the developing world is not just a device to kind of call and say, hello, let's meet someplace. It's a bank. It's a curriculum downloading device. It's part of kind of healthcare in a very big way. So it performs a lot of new roles that, frankly, are much more innovative than the way that you might use cell phone in Boston or in Rotterdam or whatever. So I think that that's something where we can really learn from the developing world and bring that to the first world.
Well, I'm glad you'll be here the rest of the afternoon
I look
because
forward to it.
there's a lot yet to be said.
Good.
Thank you
All right.
very
Thank you
much.
very much.